Howdy-ho, Andrew here, and I got my co-host Faf right here, making his camera appearance. What'd you think of the hockey game today, Faf? Yeah, I didn't think much of it either. So, yeah. All right, down you go. I got to do this. Okay. So, it's game day. Oilers versus New Jersey. I got to admit, I was worried about this game heading in, and my worries came to be. So let's start off with the pre-game show on 880 Ched. As I predicted, Lazar would be in. He used to play for New Jersey, and the Oilers love to put players against their old teams. So it wasn't a stretch to figure out that Lazar was finally going to get in on Game 5. He should have been in all season. Make no mistake about it. He should have been in all season, but he had to sit out. So Game 5, we get Lazar in. And as I said, Howard would probably be the one out. And sure enough, they left Philip out. And Howard deserves to be out. Howard should be in the AHL. If we're being really honest, he hasn't looked like an NHL player. He's not going to look like an NHL player. He's got too many holes in his game. He needs to go to the AHL, play big minutes, and work on those holes. And then, if he's ready, you bring him up in 30, 50, 80 games, or you wait till next season and you bring him up. But you send him to the AHL to work on his game because he needs it. He's not ready for the NHL. But yeah, then they got Philip sitting out for the third straight game, which is absolutely ridiculous. I've gone over this the last two games. He was our best player in Game 2. He was the first star of Game 2. Not by me, by the people picking the stars on the TV. And they put him in the press box so they could play Howard and Savoy. It's idiotic. It really is. And I'm really quite relieved to finally hear some other people starting to say this. Rob Brown was saying this. Bob Stauffer was doing a bit of revisionist history, like, well, I told them to sign him. Yeah, but you've been pushing Howard from the day he was signed, you've been pushing Howard over everybody. So you were not pushing for Philip to be in the lineup over Howard. So yeah, Bob's doing revisionist history, but he's famous for doing that. So whatever. Yeah, I mean, look at it. It's like they are sitting who was our best player in the second game, who scored, so that they can play a bunch of people that don't score and really make no effect at all on the game. Now they've been in 4 to 5 games and nothing. So yeah. And what bothers me the most about this is even if we were to bring back Philip next game, which there may be a chance that's going to happen after the way this game was played, but even if they bring back Philip next game, he's been sitting out for 3 games. There's been no practices. He's going to be rusty. He's going to be cold. So it's like he's starting all over again. What a waste. He had so much momentum after that second game, and they've killed it. So even if he does play the next game, I don't expect him to be at the level he was at the second game because they've killed the momentum. Also, they could play players that had no impact whatsoever on the game. Drives me absolutely insane. So let this be a lesson to bottom 6 players. If you score and you get picked as one of the top stars in a game, you're going to get put in the press box because bottom 6 players are not supposed to show up the top 6 players or the gifted rookies. That's not supposed to happen. But if you don't score and you're invisible for 3 or 4 games, you're gifted a top 6 spot. You're gifted a spot on the PK, and you're not even mentioned to go to the press box. Somebody, please come in the comments. Make this make sense for me because I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. All right. At last, Lazar is finally getting a chance. I'm not sure it'll matter. If he's rusty from riding the press box, he'll get punished. But if he scores and is one of our best players, well, good chance he's going to get the Philip treatment and put in the press box. Because again, your bottom 6 players are not supposed to be your best players. So rather than demand our top 6 players do better, we punish the bottom 6 players for doing better. Yeah, can you tell how frustrated I am about this? Sadly, Curtis really could have helped this team, but pretty clear nothing he does will matter. So, saw yesterday on Oilers Nation, they're already talking about trading him to make room for Roslovic. Okay, we're going to have to trade Janmark. That's pretty clear. But we could just send Savoy and Howard down to the farm, and that would make up Roslovic's contract. But again, they're not talking about that. They're talking, well, we'll trade Janmark and we'll trade Lavoie, and they're even talking about trading Phillip. I'm getting really frustrated. Only 5 games into the season, I'm getting really frustrated with the Oilers and the Oiler media pushing these agendas. Can we just let the best players play? You know, I understand we got to hit the cap. Okay, there's that. But we can hit the cap for Roslovic by sending Savoy and Howard down because they've done nothing. Savoy had a decent game last game. Tonight he was back to being invisible. You know, so he's had one good game, one decent game. I shouldn't even say good. One decent game in 5 games. And Howard's been completely invisible and looks completely out of place. So why can't we send them to the farm, trade Janmark? I mean, that one's a given. You know, I like Janmark, but I don't think having or missing Janmark is going to break the team, especially if we have Lazar in the bottom 6 for the penalty killing. And we saw that tonight. So, yeah, you know. So there was that. And then, of course, at the end of the pre-show, Stauffer, well, he did about 12 hours of admitting Bouchard was terrible, and now he's back to blaming Nurse. Nurse has been our best defenseman this season. In the first 4 games, Nurse was our best defenseman in those 4 games. You know, and yet Stauffer's sitting there going, oh, well, Nurse has to be better. What the bleeping hell do you want from him? He's pushed the offense. He's been amazing on the penalty kill and the defense. I would like him to be a bit more physical, but I've said this last year too, I have a suspicion he's under orders from the management not to be physical. So I can't really blame him for that, but I would like Nurse to be more physical. But, you know, like, what the hell else do you want from him? The problem we have on this team is named Evan Bouchard. It's not Darnell Nurse. But that's Stauffer. It's such bullshit. All right, period 1. 5 minutes in, low event game, nothing happening. Is Savoy the new Yamamoto? Like, he's being gifted a top 6 spot. He hasn't earned it. He's done nothing with it. He is soft because he's so undersized that he gets pushed around by opposing teams. He's the new Yamamoto in my eyes. You know, it drives me insane. I'm not the biggest fan of undersized players. And I will admit my bias. Very clear cut. If we have an undersized player, I want them playing like Theo Fleury. I want that effort, that determination, that grit. You know, I don't want him playing like Yamamoto, but that's who Savoy is really reminding me of, is Yamamoto. You know, he's got no points thus far this season, and he's supposed to be a point guy. He's been gifted penalty kill, which I think there's better choices. He can't play physical. He's just filling a spot, as near as I can tell. So, and again, I'm not hating on the kid, but in the NHL, in my opinion anyway, in the NHL, we have to look at what they're doing, not who they are. He could be the nicest guy in the world, for all I know. I don't know him, so he may be the nicest person in the world. That doesn't matter. All that matters is what he does on the ice. And right now, he's Yamamoto 2.0 to me. And I didn't like Yamamoto, and I'm really starting to dislike Lavoie as a player, or Savoy as a player. You know, you got to show me something. You've had 5 games now. You got to show me something. RNH takes a penalty, tripping at 6:17. Devils power play. It was a good penalty kill. Lavoie and McDavid stood out. Or why do I keep calling him Lavoie? It's Lazar and McDavid stood out. Lazar, for defensive play, he made a couple beautiful defensive plays in our defensive zone and cleared the puck. Just gorgeous. Now, clearing the puck, anyone can do. It's the defensive play to get the puck. It's not like a few games ago, everyone was raving about Savoy. Maybe that's why I keep calling Lazar Lavoie. Everyone was raving, oh, he cleared the puck on the penalty kill. Yeah, but the puck came to him. He just got it on his stick and shot it out. I mean, Okay, great. You did that. That's what you're supposed to do. But Lazar actually fought and got the puck and shot it out. There's the difference. One was a defensive play. One was just, you cleared the puck. You know, I won't bash you for clearing the puck, but I'm not going to cheer you for it either. It's what you're supposed to do. It's the simple, basic play. Everyone on the penalty kill should be doing the simple, basic play when they're in that position. Lazar actually gets the puck. He battles for it. He fights for it. He digs for it. He gets it and he clears it. That's a defensive play. So that was really well done from him. McDavid had a couple shorthanded chances. He didn't score, but he had a couple shorthanded chances. He worked hard for them. So Lazar and McDavid stood out on the penalty kill, but it was a good penalty kill. And ironically enough, that was the end of the first. That's all I had for the first period. It was a boring period. Other than a few plays by McDavid and a few saves by Pickard, and obviously Lazar's penalty kill, it was a non-event period. Shots on net were 8-4 for the Oilers. So Jersey had 4 shots, Oilers had 8. Neither of them can write home bragging about that. You know. So yeah, really nothing jumped out. As I said, McDavid had a couple offensive plays. Lazar had one nice defensive play on PK. And the rest, both teams just sort of went through the motions, kind of in a daze, which is what that period was putting me into, a daze. 0-0 at the end of the first. Second period, Jersey penalty tripping at 17:54. Oilers power play, very perimeter. Like, it was just going around the perimeter and around the perimeter and around the perimeter for the first minute. Devils killed the penalty. That's no shocker. It was a perimeter. It was a very ugly, boring power play. We've seen the Oilers do. We know the Oilers can do better than that. So I don't know what the hell's going on there. Then Bouchard. You thought I'd go a game without talking about Bouchard? Nope. Bouchard does another soft pass from the corner straight in front of our net into the slot. No Devils to grab it this time, but that's 5 games in a row he's done a soft pass to the front of our net. Last game, it went in our goal. Game before, Skinner did an amazing save. But like, when does this stop? Seriously, when does this stop? When are the coaches going to pull Evan Bouchard aside and say, enough of that, no more? If you do it one more time, you're in the press box. Now, I want to be clear here. You'll see players shoot in front of the net, but they're hard shots or hard passes. These are dribblers he does. He does them ultra soft. They're easily picked off by the opponent. We just got lucky today that there was no Devil in our slot to grab it. Otherwise, it would have probably been in our net. Then right after that, Devils score at 11:53. Hughes splits Kulak and Emberson and picks the top right corner. 1-0 Devils. I mean, Kulak and Emberson could have played that better. They could have. They got split by Hughes, who's a hell of a skater. He's a fast skater. And Jack and Lou were saying, oh, well, I think they got caught off guard with Hughes' speed. This is the NHL. You shouldn't be caught off guard with anyone's speed. You should know going in who the fast players are. So that doesn't really work for me. But it was a gorgeous shot by Hughes, went top right corner, which is what I always say. If you want to score in this league now, you got to shoot high. Then R&H, nice backtrack to break up Devils' potential breakaway. Nico Hischier, he absolutely undressed Bouchard and had him beat. And we saw it last game with McDavid rush back to cover for Bouchard. This time we saw R&H come back and cover for Bouchard. So, we're seeing all the mistakes from last game start to appear. It took to the second period, but we're seeing all these mistakes come back into Bouchard's game again. And again, I'm going to say it, when is enough? When do the coaches hold this player accountable? Send him a message that this is not acceptable. Then Ekholm gets a great chance, but he's stopped by Allen. Allen had a strong game, but all the shots he faced were lower part of the net for the most part, except for the 3 goals, which were all that we did score, which were all raised up. Again, I'll say it. If you want to score in this league, 60 to 70% of our shots have to be to the top, I'm going to say top 25% of the net. That's where you got to score, and that's where we scored. If you're shooting along ice level or just off ice level, most goalies in this league are going to stop those 99% of the time. But hey, what do I know? Nice save by Pickard off of a big one-timer. Hit went right into Pickard's mask, knocked the helmet off. So it was a big save, and he had to shake that off. But it was a nice save. Dangerous turnover by Frederick in our slot. Pickard angled it. Well, he stopped it. It went out, and then Frederick shot it off into the corner. So we didn't get scored on, but it was a horrible turnover by Frederick. It should never happen. Another Pickard save. Pickard is really strong so far. Lazar makes another nice defensive zone play, stopping Devils' pressure. Devils all over the Oilers. Pickard makes another big save. Like, they were pressuring, and I think there was a 5-minute stretch where the puck was just in our end and it was just Devils cycling and shooting. So where am I? Huskering gets behind Bouchard again, but Ekholm takes him down from behind. I'm amazed this wasn't a penalty shot, to be honest, people. It's the only play Ekholm had. He had to work his ass off to get back to cover for Bouchard, who got undressed again. I didn't think it was possible, but I think Bouchard is even worse at defense this year than he was last year. Every single game he gets undressed, he does a turnover, he doesn't cover his man, and there's a breakaway. It's an every game thing. So Ekholm hauled this guy down. I'm amazed it wasn't a penalty shot, but it was a penalty. And 3 seconds into that penalty, Devils score. 2-0 Devils. And okay, Bouchard wasn't on the ice for the goal, but this goal is on Bouchard. It's not on Ekholm for the penalty, because he got the penalty for trying to bail out Bouchard on another screw up. They got the power play because of another Bouchard screw up. And then 3 seconds into the power play, it was in the net. So, far as I'm concerned, that second goal is completely on Evan Bouchard and nobody else. Now, this is the interesting part. At the end of the first, we're not at the end of the second yet, but at the end of the first, it was 8-4 shots on net. At this point of the second period, it's now 17-17 shots on net. And I think they're being generous to the Oilers, to be honest, because most of the play up to this point in the second period was in the Oilers zone. Like I said, second period had been all Devils. And then RNH scores from McDavid and Rosevich at 1:44 left in the second period. Top right corner. We seeing a pattern here? 2-1 Devils. The goal sparked the Oilers, and the shots on goal, it was only 1:44 left in the period, but the Oilers jumped up from 17 shots on net to 22 shots on net for the period. So the period ended at 22-17. So that the final 1:44 that goal sparked the Oilers for 1:44, and they got 5 more shots on net. Like I said, Oilers were flat for most of the period until RNH goal. Stopper in the intermission is throwing Nurse under the bus yet again, but zero mention of Bouchard turnovers and defensive lapses that I just covered. That the defensive lapse is why New Jersey got its second goal. It wasn't on Nurse or Ekholm or anyone else. It was on Bouchard for not being able to play defense or not wanting to play defense. I'm really starting to believe it's not a can't, it's a doesn't want to issue. So yeah, that was the end of the second. And it was an ugly period. And yeah, so third period. So Kapanen is not having a good game. He's treating the puck like a hot potato. It's like he can't collect the pass, he can't make a shot. And everyone's blaming the ice, but a lot of this is on the player too. He was not having a good game at all out there. When he wasn't fumbling the puck, he was absolutely invisible. So, Devils penalty, high sticking at 9:58 of the third period. Bouchard has used his slap shot more in this game. Unfortunately, it was all at ice level, so they were all easy stops. Sure, they were 87, 89 kilometers an hour, but they're all on ice level, so they're all easy stops. But he's used his slap shot more this game than he had in the first 4 games of the season combined. So take that for what it is. It's like Okay, I'm glad he's starting to use a slap shot because that's why he got the big money. But if you're just going to shoot on ice level, it's meaningless for the most part. You know, unless one of our players can do a redirect and roof it, it's meaningless. Then Connor Brown, you remember him? He used to be an Oiler last year. I love Connor Brown. I loved him as an Oiler, and this is exactly why I loved him as an Oiler. Connor Brown completely undresses Bouchard at the blue line for a breakaway and scores shorthanded at 9:16. Gee, have we seen that? Didn't we just see this last game with Horvat? I think it was that. Yeah, you know, Bouchard. I'm going to keep calling it out, but is anyone really surprised at this point? You know, I'm actually at the point where I think I'm getting more frustrated with Knobloch than I am Bouchard because Knobloch will not hold him accountable. Just won't. Any other player, including Leon, we've seen Leon get benched for taking a stupid penalty last year. So any other player except for maybe McDavid, who, you know, how do you bench McDavid, would be benched for these continuous game after game after game errors. But Evan Bouchard, they will not hold him accountable. 3-1 Devils. Pickard bails out Bouchard and Oilers on another shorthanded 2-on-1 to keep the score 3-1. And yeah, that was ugly, but Bouchard fell down and the Oilers really, they had no presence in the zone, and Pickard makes a big save. So props to Calvin Pickard. He deserved a far better fate than he got in this game. Like last game, I told you Skinner was the only reason it wasn't like 4-0 in the first period. Same with Pickard. He's made so many big saves. But the problem with making big saves is eventually you're not going to make the big saves. And that's on the team. That's not on the goalie. That's on the team in front of the goalie. They need to play better. Jersey scores at 7:27. Hughes back checks Nurse. So what had happened is Nurse had the puck behind the net and he's coming around the boards and he's looking for an outlet pass. And Hughes is right on him, checking him and stick checking him and harassing him. And Nurse tries to backhand the puck up the boards and he kind of flubs the shot and it goes to the Jersey guy. Jersey guy, I forget, it was Heishanen or whoever, flips the puck back over to Hughes, who is behind Nurse because he had been behind Nurse harassing him. And Hughes has a breakaway on Pickard and scores. Now, Stauffer instantly blamed it on Pickard and Nurse. The morons online are blaming it on Nurse. That's not on Nurse. That is on the other 4 Oilers. Where were they? You could see Nurse was under pressure. You could see he was outmanned. Why did Ekholm, who was his defensive partner at the time, or Pod Colson, who was right next to Ekholm, why did they not come back and help? You know, like, we've seen this before where everybody on the line is so focused on offense that they hang their single defensive guy in the back out to dry and the puck gets turned over. So I don't blame this on Nurse. Like, could he have made a better pass? Sure. But he was under duress. He was being pressured. He needed somebody to fall back and support him. Basic common sense. Basic hockey 101. So, yeah. So anyway, that was, lost my spot. Okay, that's 4-1 Devils. Stetcher then immediately takes a roughing penalty, stupid penalty, selfish penalty, but we've seen Stetcher do this a couple times now in the few games he's been in, as he gets frustrated and he takes a selfish penalty. At 6:45, or 6:54, so this was 33 seconds after the goal. Devils power play. For some godforsake, we're down 4-1, and Knobloch puts Savoy and Bouchard out on the penalty kill. They turn over the puck twice, but luckily it doesn't cost us. But they turned over the puck in our zone twice on the PK. Like, I think Lazar actually bailed them out once. It's like, come on, why are they out there? Then we, 4 minutes left, we pull the goalie, and I notice it's Nurse and Ekholm out again. So I'm like, is Bouchard benched or something? Like, he deserved to be benched. But RNH scores with Nurse and Ekholm. RNH scores from McDavid and Nurse at 3:20. So, like, we pulled the goalie at the 4-minute mark. The penalty that they were screwing up the PK was at the 6 6:54 mark. So like there was plenty of time for Bouchard if they wanted him out there to be out there. So I think they benched him for the empty net portion, just as sending him a message. But you want to send him a message, put him in the press box. He's got to sit out a full game. So anyway, RNH scored from McDavid and Nurse at 3:20, 4-2 Devils. And then they put Bouchard back out. He missed one shift and he was back out with Ekholm. And we pulled the goalie again and we had absolutely no pressure. So to me, it was working with Nurse and Ekholm on the empty net. It wasn't working with Ekholm and Bouchard. Yeah, so empty net, but no pressure this time. Come on, Knobloch, put Nurse and Ekholm back out there together again, is what I wrote. Devils score an empty net goal at 1:07, 5-2 Devils. And then with 1:17 left in the game, Lazar scores a beautiful one-timer to the top left corner. So we've scored 2 goals to the top right, 1 to the top left, and the New Jersey goals, well, there's the empty net, so you don't count that, but the 4 New Jersey goals were all to the top of the net. Again, are we seeing a pattern here, people? Stop shooting at the bottom of the net. 60 to 70% of our shots need to be at the top of the nets. Devils score the empty net at 1:07, 5-2 Devils. Lazar scores at 1:17 top left corner from Henrique, 5-3 Devils. So my guess, with a goal and a strong defensive play, Lazar will be back in the press box tomorrow. I hope not. But, I mean, that's what happened to Philip. Got a goal. He was our best player. And he sat out 3 straight games. So, I don't know what's going to happen. If it's me, well, I'll get to that. Another ugly game overall. Our top 6, other than RNH and McDavid, are not producing 5-on-5. And they're not producing on the penalty power play either. Like I said, the power play one power play was completely perimeter. Just horrible. This game was not on our bottom 6, though I'm sure some people out there and some pundits out there will blame it on the bottom 6. Like I heard Stauffer after the game saying, oh, well, we need to put Philp and Howard back in and pull Tomasek and Lazar out. This game was not on our bottom 6. The reason we're losing is our top 6 are not producing. There was 5 goals, but they weren't on our bottom 6. They were on our top 6 when they were on the ice. They need to play better. I felt this was the worst our third line has looked this year. Now, like I said, this game was not on our bottom 6, but our third line was not. They did not have the gusto that they had in the first 4 games. And I really think we need Philip back in, centering Podkolzin and Kapanen. Like I said, Kapanen was not good today, and Podkolzin made mistakes, and that line was not clicking. They didn't cost us the game, but that line was not clicking. We need Philip back in centering that line. That line of Philip, Podkolzin, and Kapanen was our best line in the second game. They had great chemistry. So, but also, like I said, now that Philip sat out 3 games, even if he does come in the next game, he's coming in cold. You got to treat him like this is his first game, because basically it's his first game again, thanks to being benched for no reason whatsoever. So, lineups. The shots on net at the end of the game, got ahead of myself there. I didn't write them down. Sorry, you'll have to look it up online. My 3 stars, before I get to lineup changes that I would do, my 3 stars are RNH, 2 goals, so that's an obvious one. McDavid, even though the top 6 wasn't great and the power play wasn't great, McDavid, I think, had 2 assists, so I'm going to give him the 2nd star. And Lazar, he had a goal. He was really strong on the PK. Stauffer is trying to throw him under the bus for losing 2 draws on the PK. 2 draws, that's it. Okay, he lost the draws. That's going to happen. He was super strong on the PK. He was getting the puck, not just catching the puck, but he was fighting to get the puck and clearing it. So he even had a rush on a shorthanded rush. It didn't amount to anything, but he had a shorthanded rush. So Lazar was really strong, and he played limited minutes, and he still got the goal and the defensive play. So I gave him a 3rd star. He deserved it. Hopefully he's in the lineup next game. I really hope so. But right now, I'm not going to bet on anything. My 3 slugs, Bouchard, obviously. Another shorthanded goal because he won't cover his blue line. or won't cover players at the blue line. They sneak behind them. Fredericks, he had a horrible turnover in front of our net. It didn't go in, but these turnovers in our defensive zone, they have to stop. They absolutely have to stop. And if you're doing turnovers like that, you're going to get one of the slugs every single time. And I'm going to say Kapanen, because like I said, he was fighting the puck the entire night. He was invisible otherwise. Like this was the weakest I'd seen Kapanen in the first 5 games. He wasn't good. The chemistry that was with Podkolzin and Frederick last game was gone this game. Absolutely gone. It wasn't there. So I want to see Philp back, and I want to see Podkolzin with Philp and Kapanen. All right. So if I'm changing the lineup for Detroit tomorrow, the next game is tomorrow at 1 p.m. East or Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Eastern against Detroit. I'm having Frederick back up with McDavid and RNH. Mangiapane is not working with them. It's just not good chemistry there. And you can see McDavid he's not going to call out his teammates, but you can see he's getting frustrated. It's just, there's no chemistry there. And that's not anything on Mangiapane. Sometimes they're just two skilled players just don't have chemistry. And I'm thinking that's the way it is with Mangiapane. So I'm putting Frederick back up with McDavid and RNH, because RNH and McDavid do have chemistry. Leon between Rosovic and Mangiapane would be, and Rosovic has a bit of grit, but if you're worried about Mangiapane is like Hyman light, so he's not as gritty as Hyman is. So third line will be Philip and Podkolzin and Kapanen. And then for the fourth line, I want to see Lazar between Henrique and Tomasek. That puts Savoy and Howard in the press box. Howard doesn't deserve to be playing, and Savoy has had one decent game. But Savoy's he's been gifted top 6 minutes and top 6 spots, and he hasn't got a point yet. So, if you're an offensive player and you're not scoring, why do we keep you in the lineup? So that would be my lineup. And if Wallman is ready, I don't think he's going to be, but if he was, I'd put Bouchard in the press box too for a game. Just one game. Put him up there and say, you watch the game, and when you come back next game, you have to be better. No more of this turnover stuff. No more of letting players get by you because you don't want to play defense. Either you play your position or you're going to be in the press box. And I think a one-game sit down in the press box would do more good for Evan Bouchard than all the screaming and yelling that the fans and some of the press, not all of the press obviously, but some of the press are doing, or these one-shift benching during a game. Put him up there because he's not used to being held accountable. He needs to learn to be held accountable. Evan Bouchard, since he joined the Oilers, has been gift-wrapped everything. He was given Duncan Keith as a partner to mentor him. We traded for Ekholm to mentor him and cover up his defensive mistakes. They specifically hired Coffey for the 2 seasons to do the defense so that it could be planned around Bouchard. So they have done the kids' gloves with Bouchard and it hasn't worked. So now it's time to hold him accountable for his mistakes. Send him the message saying, nope, you got to be better. We're sitting you out. And when you come back in, you have to be better. But I don't think Wallman's going to be ready from what I hear. So, and I know that's not going to happen. I know Savoy's not going to be in the press box. He should be, but he won't be. I know they're not going to sit Bouchard in the press box. They should, but they won't. But that's what my lineup would be. Bring Bouchard back after sitting out one game and then sit Stetcher, because Stetcher's a number 7. And he's taken 2 really selfish penalties in the last 2 games. And that's not acceptable either. And for those of you who think I'm being too tough on Bouchard, before I started filming, I had written this all out and I'd put it down and I just turned on Chad and I was listening to the post-game show and it was like Rob Brown was reading from my notes. So I'm not the only one saying this. And I respect Rob Brown. And he was saying basically the same thing. He wasn't saying put Bouchard in the press box. He was coming a little short of that. But otherwise, he was pretty much echoing everything I'm saying. So it's not just me seeing this. So that was the game. It was an ugly, terrible game. I hope I never see another game like that. But I'm starting to worry that we're in that part of the season where they go 10, 11 game losses, losing streak. We've seen it for the last 2 seasons, last 3 seasons. You know, they do it every year. So I'm starting to get a uneasy feeling that we're in that. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But, you know, the Calgary game was ugly. We should have won. Bouchard cost us that game. Vancouver game, Vancouver strictly didn't show up. You know, I would love to say we earned that win, but Vancouver didn't show up. Then we went to the Rangers. Skinner won that game for us. Our goalie won the game. It wasn't our players. They didn't play all that well. Then last game against the Islanders, they played like crap. And then tonight, or this afternoon, they played like crap. So, you know, that's 5 games of basically we lucked out with 5 points. But if you really look at it, we could be sitting at 0-5 right now with the way they've been playing. So I'm really getting uneasy that we're starting the season off with a 10-11 game losing streak. And I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But if they don't wake up and start working out there, that's exactly what's going to happen. We're going to be so far behind the 8 ball right off the bat that we're struggling all season to catch up. Now, don't get me wrong. We're going to make the playoffs. I have no doubt about that. And I don't even doubt that we make it far in the playoffs. But this is ugly, folks. This is ugly and this is unacceptable. And that's where I'm going to leave it. If you like this video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow my channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders, and I do appreciate it. It takes 1 second to subscribe, costs you absolutely nothing, helps me immensely. Just hit the subscribe button on the bottom of the screen. Always feel free to leave a comment. I encourage everybody to leave a comment. Tell me what you think. What do you agree? What do you disagree? Yada, yada, yada. You know the drill. So leave a comment and tell me. Let's have a conversation. Also, leaving a comment really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and getting more eyes on my videos. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. See you tomorrow against the Detroit Red Wings, 1 o'clock Mountain.